Have you ever wondered about manifestation and about how you can easily manifest your desires into your life? If yes, then you're in the right place. I am Pratna and you're listening to Rebel with a Purpose. And in today's episode, I am interviewing Simran, who is a mindset and manifestation coach. I am so glad to have her in the episode and she will explain and introduce herself more. So let's get right into it. Hi, Simran. How are you doing?
Hi, Pratna. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good today. Thank you so much for being here and for your presence. It was an honor to invite you on my podcast.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here and sending so much love to all of your listeners.
So, just for our listeners, can you give us a little bit of an introduction of what you do today and also what inspired you to get into it?
Yeah, definitely. So, I'm a mindset and manifestation coach. And for me, manifestation is not something that I really planned on. Like, I truly feel like it found me and I kind of stumbled into it. So, I can share with you a bit about like my background and like my story because it's a bit unconventional. So, I basically grew up as an eldest daughter in a middle class, second gen family in Singapore. So, that really shaped my worldview. And subconsciously I took on responsibility and maturity way younger than the average person, and I had these like subtle people pleasing tendencies. And because of just the cultural expectations growing up in Singapore, academic excellence was always top priority for me. And so without realizing, I had outsourced my sense of self-worth to external achievements, right? So I got a stable corporate job right out of school. And for me, the priority had always been to like prioritize that stability and, like being very logical and having everything planned out. So I didn't really give myself a chance to sort of explore what really like lights me up and what I wanted to do. So obviously that naturally like led to me, climbing the corporate ladder and like job after job just feeling emptier and like not really understanding what was going on. And so I'm not sure about you, but like for me, like, I just couldn't really relate to my peers. And I felt like they had kind of found their calling, and like I was like, I'm not really sure if this is what I'm meant to do, because there's this like voice inside like telling me that I'm maybe meant to do something else.
Mm.
But it took me quite a while to get to that tower moment where like I got laid off and things really weren't working out, and for me to like, okay, now I have no choice and I've all this time, I have to sort of go inwards and figure out what actually I want to do. So along the process, like I had found myself in really toxic workplaces as well. In like one of my workplace, my manager had like manic episodes and would trauma dump on me during work, and I was just really deeply unhappy, and it just strained my relationships with my family and my partner as well. So like I would have fainting spells on the way to work. My body was basically shutting down, telling me that something was massively misaligned for me. So long story short, I did stay in corporate a while after that, but um I found also my own sustainable activewear business with my partner, which was my kind of first steps to do something different and risky and like out of my comfort zone. But unfortunately, even that didn't make me happy because, I had tied my entire identity to the success of my business. And so if my business wasn't successful, I just felt like I wasn't successful. And, that's a recipe for disaster and burnout and unhappiness as well.
Mm.
So I just internally basically had a lot of inner work to do about, kind of building that self-worth. And I just also I also felt like I had to work really hard for the success. And now I know that's because I was like carrying these generational stories of lack and scarcity around money.
Yeah.
So yeah. But like, yeah, I mean, like there's more to the story, but like so far I just wonder if like this resonates with you because I understand that you studied in Singapore as well.
Yeah, it resonates with me completely because I was
Yeah.
also in the corporate. I studied for 4 years and then I was looking for jobs even after I graduated. But throughout the 4 years, I did 6 internships in different corporate firms in Singapore. And in 4 years,
Yeah.
doing six is a lot because I kept jumping
It
because nothing was satisfying me. Like nothing felt fulfilling. So I completely get with that, get what you're saying. And also the part where you said like my friends felt like your friends felt like, they had found their calling. But for me,
is.
the same thing, right? Like I felt like I hadn't, like this is not the place I'm supposed to be in. Like this doesn't like feel like this is what I'm meant to do. But my friends were completely okay doing the corporate
Yeah.
jobs, right? But I felt
Exactly.
like I didn't want to do it. And something
Yeah.
about me felt like there was something wrong with me. And it
Mhm.
was always like, what's wrong with me? And that was my constant mind
Exactly.
chatter the entire time because everyone else was fitting in but me.
Mhm.
The voice,
Yes.
yeah, and
The
you said
voice
the voice,
inside, yeah, like
yeah.
And it would always come out like in those very unexpected moments too, when you are like, just kind of like by yourself, and it's like, okay, like I'm not sure if this is it, and it's a bit scary to like get to that point where you are like, am I supposed to be in a different industry? Am I supposed to be completely doing a different thing? And like it's just very, very scary, right?
Yeah.
So basically I realized that I had all these like I had a lot of self-doubt issues and self-worth issues, but I did not really know where to even start. And somehow around that time I came across a manifestation podcast by Flora Sivos. I'm not sure if you've heard of her, but she has an incredible podcast as well. And so basically I started doing these manifestation techniques without like a real understanding of them. I started doing scripting, which I think is very popular as well. So I
Mhm.
would like write about, I want to do a job that makes a real difference. I want to like work remotely and travel the world, like all these things. And I honestly wasn't too attached to it. I just did it for fun. And I was like, this is like interesting. If it works out, it works out. And then 6 months later, I got laid off. So it, in a way, it did work out, right? But back then, you are not going to like realize how that's like a part of the unfolding of your manifestation.
Yeah.
So I was incredibly like shaken from it, because for me I was like, okay, what I thought was supposed to be stable is not really stable after all, and like this, the safer
Yeah.
status quo is not really safe after all. And then that's when I realized that I had to kind of build that sense of stability from within. And until I do that, like nothing is really going to sort of work out for me.
Yeah.
um
What's the
yeah.
name of the person who has the manifestation podcast? Flora?
Flora Sivos. So her podcast, I think it's called Your Manifesting Bestie.
Oh,
Um, yeah, she's quite popular. She's from US, I think. Yeah.
all right.
Yes. So, and then I came across other teachers like Joe Dispenza as well. Like, I
Yeah.
think the right resources just started like showing themselves to me. And like, when you're online, like it's quite easy to kind of have these things put on your path. And basically, I realized that I had mostly like let life happen to me instead of boldly creating my own reality. So I started changing who I was being when I was alone, through meditation, through journaling. I poured myself into spiritual books, manifestation, universal laws, and I've started to see like my patterns through EFT tapping and breath work. And I basically, I would do tapping, and then I would suddenly have like a memory come up, like, oh, so this is where like this is coming from. Like suddenly I had this memory of, I think I was a kid and I was in school, and this teacher like called me out in front of like the entire class, like cause I wasn't paying attention or something. And I was like, okay, so this is where like that sort of like shame kind of comes from.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you do EFT tapping, you also go back to, like, it can help you go back to the root cause of where certain fear is coming from?
Yeah, it can, but it happens in a very like passive way. Like, you because when you do EFT tapping, it's more so to sort of release your limiting beliefs and like shift to like a more positive state of mind, right? So you are mainly doing it to regulate your nervous system and kind of create that safety. But then for a lot of people, while they are doing that, like that sometimes like memories will just come up. And then, it's not something that you can really expect or force. If there's something that needs to come up, I think it does, and then it gets released. But it doesn't mean that if that specific root memory doesn't come up, you are not actually healing. You are still doing that healing, because I think the conscious awareness of it is like 80% of the job already. So, if you get lucky and you manage to actually see the root cause of it, then good for you. But I don't think like that's really important. um
Okay, so you
yeah.
don't have to get to the root cause of it to heal
No,
something?
no. So 80% is conscious awareness. So like even when I work with my clients, I think a lot of them naturally we are curious, as humans, we want to know, when did this start and
Yeah.
all of that. But it doesn't really matter. Like I think it will show itself to you when it's the right time. And if it doesn't, it's still good, because 80% is conscious awareness, right? So my focus is always on kind of making sure that we are like looking forward and moving forward and kind of shifting and stepping into that identity that we need to be in if you want to manifest that certain thing. um but yeah, it's like a lifetime kind of process, because like it's not like you're going to heal everything within like 6 months. Like with every new kind of milestone, there's going to be these new demons, you can say, that come up, and like all these limiting beliefs that you had sort of worked through, you thought you had worked through them, and then they kind of resurface again, because they want your attention, and they want to, your shadows kind of just want to be shown a light on as well. Um so yeah, basically was doing all of that, on healing work by myself. And then I found a mindset manifestation coach on Instagram, actually. And I was just intuitively like led to hire her. And she helped me confirm that I wanted to be a mindset and manifestation coach.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And how do you
So,
incorporate this in your coaching? Like, how do you help your clients and what techniques? So you spoke about EFT tapping, but what are the other
yes.
ways that you really like work with your clients and help them achieve their manifestations?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, I've like poured all the things that worked for me and worked for my initial clients into one signature program called Aligned and Thriving, which is a 4-month container, and it's very, very focused on embodiment and identity shifts, and kind of like building that safety and trust within, because we all have the inner power to like be whoever we want to be. Normally, the only thing that stops us is our own limits, and so the mentorship is very much focused on getting aware of what exactly is stopping you. So for me, no matter what like my client is manifesting in their life, and what reality they want to create, it's going to be 80% mindset, and 20% the actual action, right? And even the 20% has to be aligned action, and that aligned action is just not going to come up unless your 80% mindset energy is right. So I basically combine mindset shifts and manifestation work, to help my clients unlock their potential to manifest what they're calling into their life. So for me, like I don't believe in cookie cutters, so that's why I love human design as well, because it kind of helps to guide the overarching strategy of what my clients want to go through. So, for example, for myself, I'm a manifesting generator. And so I know that my strategy is like to respond, and my authority is sacral. So for me, that actually means that I have to trust that I'm going to attract the right opportunities, because it's meant to be that my aura is on its own is very expansive and is supposed to attract the right things to me. So my job is actually as much as possible to like live in the present moment and just like live my best life and just trust that I will know when it's the right opportunity. So I need to work on my relationship with myself so that I can recognize immediately whether it's like a hell yes for me or like a hell no for me, because I'm supposed to make decisions with my gut. So it's like if I'm forcing it too much, or like I'm trying to figure out the point A B C too much, then that's where I sort of get frustrated, and that's when I know that I'm not aligned with my sort of manifesting strategy. But aside from human design, normally within the first 30 minutes of speaking to a client, I can get a good understanding of like the things that they desire the most, and also the fears and the limiting beliefs that they are standing in their way that they are not even like conscious of. So for example, if I have a client that's an entrepreneur and has like business goals, right? And she may say something like, I want to manifest this certain like milestone or success. And once that happens, I'm going to feel like I'm on the right path. So like right away, I know that, they have tied their inherent worth and their what success means to them to this external metric or goal that they want to hit, which is very normal, right? But in that consciousness where you don't yet identify as that successful version of yourself, you are not going to be able to align to that success you're calling in, when it comes to manifestation. So that's where the catch 22 comes in. And so a big part of the inner work is going to be making my client consciously aware of that limiting belief and how it plays out on a day-to-day basis, which is why when I work with my clients, I offer 24/7 like real-time support as well.
Yeah. Okay, and then
Yeah.
how do they embody that success feeling today?
um yeah, so embodiment's very important. So basically what embodiment means is that you need to get your mind on board, and you also need to get your body on board. And like the simplest way to say it is that you need to be making the right energetic choices on a daily basis. So it's very important to have clarity first, because you need to know where you are right now, and what is that identity that need you kind of want to be able to like energetically hold that manifestation in your life. So once you craft out that identity, which is a big part of my coaching, we have to look at their kind of their speech towards themselves, their self-talk, the way they kind of react to situations, with the people that are closest to them, because normally it's your friends and family that become the source of like your biggest triggers as well. So it's very important to be very self-aware of that. So normally the first week or so, like their only job is to kind of get very aware of how they are sort of operating, and then from there we will create like a personalized plan. So other than self talk, there's also obviously the kind of thoughts and beliefs that you hold about yourself, about that manifestation, and about, that area of life that you're manifesting. So for example, if you are manifesting more income, like it's not just about, what you how you view yourself. It's also going to be, how do you view money as a whole, and
Yeah.
how do you view that industry that you're working in. And do you view, like, you might have sneaky beliefs where it's like, you think that, okay, I attract money really well, but actually you believe that, sometimes money just goes to those that are lucky, for example. So it's like really sneaky like that sometimes. So it's very important to be very self-aware of like that whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. And some of my clients have also said, like, I'm not deserving of abundance or money. So when
Yeah.
it comes to the deserving wound, like, how do you help your clients with the deserving wound when they feel like they are not enough, or they
Yeah,
don't deserve it? Because I feel like that's one of the biggest blocks also to
it
manifesting, right?
is. Definitely. I think it's like it all comes down to sort of like self-worth, right? And I think self-worth is not something that, okay, I'm going to like go and work with this coach, or I'm going to do this course and then I will have the self-worth that I need. It's actually something that you have to choose on a daily basis, like in small ways and in big ways as well. You have to understand that, you are the abundance that money is seeking, that you are basically the value of the money in human form, right? And you have to view money as energy, which it seems a bit complicated for, like, the average person. But the more you sort of like practice that, and the more you reflect that in your self-talk, it's like something that you build an energetic momentum for as well. Like, you just got to be 1% better every single day with your relationship to yourself and with your relationship to money. And you know sort of face your shadows as well, because most of the time the reason why we kind of feel unworthy is because we have not like dealt with these shadows that really are begging to come to the light, right? So every time you catch yourself like, okay, you say this sort of like negative statement about what you think about yourself when it comes to money. Like, for example, if the client tells me, okay, I just don't feel worthy of it, like that statement itself is like programming that, you maybe heard it like when you were a kid, like, before 7 years old, when your subconscious was like very, very like permeable, or like you don't know where it came from, right? The most important thing is just to be aware that, okay, that is something that I believe in, but I choose not to believe it or identify with it from this point onwards. And you just need to consciously keep choosing not to identify with it.
Yeah.
And as often as it comes up, you are just going to continue not to identify with it, and it's just going to purge itself out at some point. Because through EFT tapping as well, you can, whenever you do tapping with these statements, they are going to reduce the emotional sort of like intensity of that belief. So there's a lot of ways, honestly, to sort of neutralize those feelings of unworthiness, but it's really, really going to depend on like the person and the individual as well.
Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
interesting. And are our fears, like most of our fears, do they come from before the age of 7? Like, is
Yeah.
it brain from there?
um Definitely, because I think, okay, so I've been learning more and more as well, right, about like where do these beliefs come from. A lot of it does come from childhood, but I think a lot of it is also generational, and cultural as well. And some people might even say that some of it comes from like your past lives.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, if you just, you feel like you had a very happy, generally very happy childhood, you had a very open-minded family, and like, it's, maybe they reinforced some of these beliefs, but there wasn't really any obvious trauma that happened in childhood that you can really pinpoint, right? Then I think it's safe to say that it's probably generational. Because yeah, like at the end of the day, like I'm more focused on, not focusing too much on where it's coming from. But if it sort of reveals itself to you, then that's good. But my focus is always not to sort of like waste too much of our energy on like, wondering where it's coming from, but to kind of focus into that new identity. Because um manifestation is all about your dominant state of consciousness, right? And you want to make sure that that's dominantly always for that identity that you are choosing to step into on a daily basis.
Yeah. So say, like,
Yeah.
even a small part of us, like, we worked on the self-worth, okay, and even a small part of us still believes we're not worthy of it.
Yeah.
That still block our manifestation.
I no, I don't think I. So for me, I feel like if you choose to identify with that, then yes. So when it comes to really big manifestations and really big goals, right? Um, as long as you're dominantly holding the energy of that version of you, that that new
Yeah.
version of you should be okay. Obviously if there's that little bit of like niggling self-worth in the back of your mind, it might make things like emotionally a bit more challenging. Like every time you want to do something new, you will feel more fear come up, you might have a more anxiety come up. But at the end of the day, it's there for you so that you can kind of like show love to those parts of you and just be like, okay, like, but this is not what we believe in anymore, this is what we believe in. So
Yeah.
it's like you just have to kind of make sure that you are like giving attention to all those parts of you and not too focused on like, oh, like this is so inconvenient, I'm feeling this anxiety again, like this self-worth issues are coming up again, I just don't want to deal with them. Because when you do that, then you sort of repress them even more.
Mm.
So the focus just has to be on like, it may come up at any point of time, but like, how am I choosing to work with it? Because that version of me that has all the things, she's going to be like kinder to herself, she's going to be more self-assured. If anything comes up that she's not able, that makes her uncomfortable, she knows how to deal with it in the best way possible. So you just sort of have to build that self-trust that at any point of time you're going to know what's the right thing to do for you.
Mm. Okay, got
Yeah.
it. And what
Yeah.
would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions about manifestation?
I think the most common misconception normally is that manifestation is about the outcome and not so much about the journey. I think in the manifestation community, there's such a big focus on like, I want to get this thing. How do I get it? What manifestation technique should I use to get it? Right. And especially when you're manifesting the big things, that's what gets people stuck. Because the truth is, manifestation is not just about the end result. It's going to be about the journey that you have to undergo to become that energetic version of yourself that can hold that manifestation. And so it requires you to basically become that embodiment of that version of yourself. So for example, like if you think about lottery winners who suddenly come into like a large sum of money, often they lose it very quickly as well,
Yeah.
because they just yeah so they just haven't developed that mindset, and that energetic capacity to hold that money, right? And so then it just shows that it was never about the outcome, it was never about that money. It was about becoming the person who is safe and comfortable with that money, and who has built that inner safety to feel worthy of that money. So like, even when it comes to relationships in manifestation, I think it's very common to manifest a specific person. So um people
Okay.
might set their sights on attracting like a particular partner or into their lives, but the common misconception is that they think that simply having that person show up will solve their self-abandonment wounds. But a lot of the time you will find that the relationship is not going to hold and sustain itself, because you've not faced your shadows and you've not done that inner work and energetically become that version of yourself. Obviously for some people that's not an issue at all, because maybe they have kind of like faced all their karma and their shadow work, and it's just about kind of building the energetic momentum. But for most people, I think it's very important to not get lost in the outcome and just focus on enjoying the journey getting there as well.
Yeah. What is energetic momentum?
So basically energetic momentum is just your energy, your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions, what timeline are you feeding that into? Like, are you feeding it into the timeline where you have all the things, or are you sort of still stuck in that identity where you don't? So I like to use the word energetic momentum, because manifestation really is about momentum, and you want to like kind of feed your energy into the right timeline, into the right identity, into focusing on the right things. Because by law of attraction, whatever you focus on grows.
Yeah.
Whatever you appreciate is going to appreciate, and whatever you don't appreciate is going to like depreciate. So it's all about making sure that your energy is going to the right things, because if everything is energy, then you have to be very conscious of where what kind of energy you are emitting as well.
Okay. And you spoke
Yeah.
about embodiment, right? So how does that differentiate from manifestation?
um so I think when we think about new age manifestation, like what we think about a lot is like visualization, doing all the techniques, doing the affirmations, doing the scripting. But all those things actually are just tools, right? It's not like there's going to be one perfect manifestation technique for you. It's about embodying that version of you, and then using those tools and techniques to help you stay in that state of consciousness and help you you know get into that safety, that you feel safe enough and worthy enough to receive whatever you are desiring. So embodiment actually is the big piece of the puzzle, and like all the other manifestation techniques are supposed to keep you in that state, so that you can actually manifest whatever you want to call into your reality.
Okay. And what is quantum identity? And like, yeah, how is quantum identity related to? Because I've heard a lot about quantum jumping, quantum leaping. How is
Yes.
that related to manifestation?
Yeah, so everything, like, in this physical reality, like you and I and everyone, we are all like made up of atoms vibrating like at specific frequencies, right? So if you think about quantum identity, it just basically suggests that our identity is not like fixed to a limited current reality that we are facing. So in quantum physics, particles can exist in multiple states at once until they are observed. So when it comes to manifestation, our quantum identity refers to the idea that we have these multiple potential version of ourselves already existing right now. The moment you have a desire, the moment you feel a pull towards something that you want to manifest into your life, that version of you, that quantum version of you that has that desire, is also going to be born. So it's just that concept, that you know the version that you are experiencing right now, the life that you have right now, is going to be the one that is aligned with your thoughts, with your beliefs, and with your actions, right? So that is the quantum identity. All of that makes up your quantum identity, and you want to make sure that you are shifting that so that you can basically like jump into that desired timeline.
Mm. Okay, so I've been thinking about this recently, and I want to ask you a very specific question, okay?
Yeah.
So like say my goal or my aim, like I think about my future self a lot and the identity I want to be in the future. So like it's August 2024. In August 2025, this is who I want to be. And I generally write it down. I get very clear on who I want to be 1 year from now, how much I'm earning. I want to
Yeah.
ask, like, is this sometimes I ask myself, what does unrealistic success mean to me? Because I
Yeah.
don't want to limit myself. So I try to dream big and have bigger goals. Um, does this help make manifestation easier? Like just dreaming big and having bigger goals? Like, does it help?
Yeah. um so the thing is, right, like it's as easy to manifest like something like point A or point B. It's not so much like, okay, I have to manage my expectations so it gets easier for me, because like the self trust that you have to manifest anything new that is not your current reality is going to be challenging if you think it's challenging. So it's about the assumptions that you sort of create. Obviously, for some people, like, they prefer, like, they feel more comfortable and safe to like have these, like, little steps, like, okay, by this month I'll do this, by this month I will do this, and that just feels good for them. But for some people, that kind of makes them feel like they're contracting a little bit, like, okay, but maybe if the thought of kind of like reducing the expectations just makes them feel smaller, then that's not going to be good for you. So it really really depends. For some people, if it feels better to sort of like, do it step by step, um, that's also fine. But the truth is that, we are limitless and we live in a very abundant universe, and there is never a limit to like what you can ask for, right? Because everything is neutral until like you assign that meaning to, until you assign like, okay, this one is harder and this one is easier. Like, it's basically going to come down to the assumptions that you have about it. So the main thing that you want to focus on is sort of like working on your assumptions instead of like deciding that something is easier or harder to manifest.
Yeah. So I'll tell
Yeah.
you where my block comes with that. It's like if
Sure.
I believe that, if my aim is to earn, um, say $10,000 next month. I want to
Yeah.
earn $10,000 next month. Like, I don't obviously fully believe it because I've never done it before. And
Yeah,
it's
of
like
course.
I'm not even close to 10,000. So it's like having such a huge goal, like it's unbelievable. And I feel like that could also block your manifestation because you're not believing it fully.
Yeah.
But what if I worked on my limiting beliefs and limiting fears and I believed that I could earn
Mm.
$10,000 next month? Then what?
Okay, so that's two parts to like the answer here. So the first part is like, even when you were saying that, the first thing that comes up in my mind is like, you said next month, right? So you've sort of set like a time frame for it. So that is naturally going to make anyone, like, regardless of like how strong your self concept is, feel like pressure because you set a timeline to it. Normally, like, when we're doing scripting and stuff, we do like 6 months ahead, 1 year ahead, like, okay, like it's a little bit far, not too close, like we feel comfortable doing it. But when you set timelines like 1 month, 1 week. Like it is important to feel comfortable, because or the other thing you could do is, I already am stepping into the identity of someone that earns $10,000 right now, because that is what embodiment is about. It's about the right now, because you're always manifesting your right now moment.
Yeah.
So that is what I would focus on. If someone wants to like get quick results, instead of being like by next week, by next month, I would be like, just forget about time, because like the moment you start worrying about the clock, you kind of like lose the plot a bit. And what you want to focus on is like, right now I'm already earning $10,000. Right now I have X number of clients. So what am I really worried about? Like everything's already working out for me. So you sort of want to get like a bit delulu about it, because when you are being delulu, you don't actually you're not forcing yourself to believe it. You are just literally stepping into those shoes. You are like putting on like a game character, like you're putting on a VR headset and every day, and like that's already who I am. And based on that version, this is how I think about myself, this is how I talk to myself, these are the actions that I take. And that is sort of what you want to do. That is what embodiment's all about. Instead of like, oh, like I'm just going to believe in it, and then hopefully like it works itself out by next month. Like when you do that, there is still a little bit of you like giving your power away to like something outside of you to
Mm.
make it happen for you.
So a timeline is, I mean, you're saying if there's a timeline, it should be a much longer timeline, like not 1 week, 1 month, but it's better to
Yeah.
just embody it in the present moment rather than thinking of the clock and the when I'm going to achieve it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would say that for scripting, it feels good to do it like, because it's almost like you are like your future self is writing back to you kind of thing. So it's just like it's a very good feeling thing to do, but that doesn't mean that you have to set like very long-term goals. I think when it comes to manifestation, it's all about embodiment right now in your right now moment. So you want to step into those shoes right now. You don't really want to worry about time, because honestly, time is like not really a thing when it comes to manifestation. If you think about quantum realm, everything is happening at the same time, right? It's just we perceive time in a certain way. So that is something that if you don't want to limit yourself with it, that's even better, because then you can fully embody everything that you want right now, and like leave it to the universe to sort of like orchestrate it for you, like how it's going to happen through your path of least resistance.
Mm. Can you explain more on the part of least resistance?
Yeah, definitely. So part of this resistance is just like at any point of time, there's infinite ways that something could like fall into place for you, right? But at this moment, like, with who you are being right now and how you are embodying right now, and just how maybe, your life has been set up right now, what is probably the easiest way for the manifestation to come in? Like, for example, maybe you are manifesting like, you're manifesting your soul tribe, or like you're manifesting like, a community. Like right now, like what's going to be the easiest way for that to come in? Maybe it's by going to a certain event, but it's not something that you are going to think like step by step, right? Okay, I'm going to do A, B, C, and then I'm going to get this. Like that is basically your path of least resistance. It could come through anyway, but you just want to focus on feeling good, and you just want to focus on being very mindful of your energy, and just trust that it's going to happen for you, because you are deciding that it's already going to happen for you through your path of least resistance. You don't really care how it's going to happen.
Yeah. And how do people just trust and detach from the outcome?
So, okay. Detachment happens when you basically decide that no matter, like literally, your life might be going to shit, but you trust that if you are living in a world of infinite possibilities, literally anything could happen, right? And so the way I like to think about detachment is that you basically need to not want it. You need to convince yourself like, okay, I don't want this manifestation because I already have it. If I already have it and I'm already stepped into that identity, why would I be thinking about wanting it? You get what I mean? So obviously, like, to the rational brain, the logical brain, you're like, no, but I don't have it yet. But you don't want to think from that point of view, because if you are manifesting, you need to commit to not slipping back into logic. So if you already were embodying that version of you right now that has that, I don't know, 10K a month or whatever it is, right? You are not going to be focused too much on like, how is it going to happen? Is this how it's going to happen? Is that how it's going to happen? Like, because when you do that, your energy gets like really scattered. And detachment is just about deciding. It's really an energetic decision at the end of the day, because trying to believe can be quite hard, because believing all comes down to like your nervous system, right? And your nervous system is going to be affected by anything that's happening around you. So it's all about the energetic decision, and then whenever you're feeling any doubt, you just want to practice nervous system regulation to recenter yourself. whatever that looks like for you. It could be EFT tapping, could be breath work. And there is no one solution to like this is how you detach. It's really like a moment by moment choice that you make through a decision, and through acting as a version that already has it, that wouldn't even be thinking about, how do I detach, when is it going to come, and basically like losing the plot like that.
Mm. So it's more of like just deciding and consciously in the moment being aware of how your thoughts, like where
Exactly.
your is and
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it's very, very present to sorry, very, very important to be present. Because like I said, like you're manifesting you're right now. So you can't be too focus on what happened, oh, this missed opportunity, or like, if this had worked out this way, then I would be here by now, or like, you know um focus too much on what's going to happen and be too stressed about it. You have to like be in the present moment. And again, it's hard to do that if you are not, focus on your emotional state. You have to build that emotional mastery as well, which is also like a really, really big part of like coaching in my container, because you have to use the tools that are available to you. All these tools are here for you, like EFT tapping, breath work, humming, whatever it is, like whatever feels good. For some people it's really just simple, like going to the gym, and that makes them feel good. So it's about finding like what works for you and helps you stay present, because at the end of the day you could be stressing about it and not get it, or you could be super like just playful and just living in the moment and not get it. Which one feels better? You know what I mean? So you
Mhm.
want to focus on like your emotional state and sort of take off that manifestation from like this very high pedestal that you've like put it on, and just trust that you are already embodying that version of you that will have that. And that's
Yeah.
like the sweet spot.
Yeah, I really love how you gave those two scenarios. And since we're
Yeah.
speaking about detachment, what is your favorite universal law?
Um, my favorite universal law will be the law of polarity. So, like as the name suggests, it's about opposite ends, right? So, as long as you focus on the right experience, you can shift like from losing to winning instantly if you apply the law right. Because law of polarity tells us that everything in the universe has an equal opposite. So, like rich, poor, good, evil, lack, abundance, attraction, disconnection. Like there is not going to be a single thing, a person, occurrence, or anything that's like fully one-sided, right, in your life. So how do you apply that into your reality? Is like whenever something happens to you that you perceive as like something that's really negative or like really bad, how can you like shift your point of view of what your experience is? Because it all comes down to like the meaning that you're going to assign to that experience that you're going through. Because as the operant power, you get to view it as something really positive and expansive. And through the law of polarity and through duality, you get to focus on what you actually want to experience. So you can focus on the abundance that's available to you, and whatever you focus on grows. So that can actually be manifested for you as well. So, for example, like, you go through a breakup, right? Obviously, like logically speaking, it's not a nice thing to go through. But, if you understand, like, okay, but there is this universal law called law of polarity. And what that means is that maybe this person, is making space for the right aligned person to come into my life. So person A could be like really thinking like, oh, like, I have to start all over again. I have to just start dating again. I've wasted like X number of years in my life. They're going to be ruminating on that, and they're going to be basically sort of wasting time, right? Because in that time, if you were like this other person, this other version of yourself who was focusing on like, I'm going to feel how I feel, and obviously I'm going to go through the whole healing process. But I trust that there's this law of polarity, that this has happened so that something better can make its way into my life, because universe is creating space for the better, you know better person to come into my life. So that's my favorite universal law, because like it just really puts things into perspective for you.
Okay, wow, that's really interesting. So,
Yeah.
talking about like your coaching, what is your favorite client success story that you can share with us? Because it's really interesting to hear how like manifestation can literally change your life, right? Like a lot of things that I have manifested, which is why I believe in the power of it so
Yeah.
deeply. But how has it, for any of your clients, how has it changed their life?
So one of the clients that I worked with was like this really, really amazing fitness coach, and she was in the process of growing her clientele online, and she was incredible in what she was doing. She was very action oriented. She was very business minded, and she was doing all the right things. She was holding all master classes and this and that. But basically she came to a point where she just felt burnout, and like she was like hustling, and like there was something missing. And when she came to me, she felt that it was probably mindset and probably energy, and she didn't have like a lot of knowledge of what that really meant. But she chose to just kind of trust the process and do things like in a different way. So basically, she wanted to manifest more clients and more income. And she wanted to navigate and heal her relationship around self worth. Like she had this doubt that, maybe it's because I don't feel worthy. Because whenever she would see other, coaches online, she always found herself comparing to them. And she would be like, there's these coaches that are like younger than me and they're doing so much better than me. And like, she just wanted like support in that. So we created a new identity for her, and we addressed her relationship with money, and with success. So we did that through like, subconscious reprogramming, through embodiment practices, meditation, making sure that she got really aware of her self talk and building like self trust with herself. Because, it's so important for entrepreneurs, especially, to build self trust and validate themselves first, so that they become that change that they want to see in their reality. Right. And you have to get to a point where you will self validate yourself as many times as you need to, instead of waiting for that client or that opportunity to come by and like validate what you're doing in your reality. Because that is what's going to create that like super magnetic energy, right, that will attract the right people, the right clients as well. So through the course of working with me, she had a lot of success in business, but also like in personal life. So on the business side, like she was booking more client calls, but more importantly, she had built this inner sense of like safety and this intuition that was attracting clients to her, but she still felt comfortable declining them if they weren't the right clients, which is what created space for the right ones to come in. And that's not something she ever felt like confident enough to do when she was starting out. Yeah, and she had also built like a very strong intuition. She started applying like law of assumption. She had like cats and kittens that were feeling really sick, and like in the past, like every time like they would like they would die. So this time around she applied law of assumption and she actually like healed them. And then there's also one instance where like her mom, she's like 70 years old, and her arm was not like feeling too good, and she couldn't move it, and she basically just decided to focus on law of assumption, and the next day her mom was feeling completely fine. So it's just like little things like that that she
What is
built like that self trust within herself.
what is the law of assumption?
So law of assumption basically just means that whatever you assume and whatever meaning that you assign to anything that happens in your reality is going to be what plays out if you stay persistent and decide that it's already done. So it's a pretty straightforward law in that sense. So yeah, it requires a lot of, again, working with your emotions, because you could try and believe in something and try and apply anything, but if your inner safety isn't there, it's just not going to work. So that was really really good to hear, because she sort of built that self trust within herself. And like she sort of reminded me about myself as well, because I had to unlearn a lot about money energetics and asserting my own self-worth and balancing all these masculine and feminine energies, like not just working hard and grinding and doing all the right things and then sort of being like, okay, why is nothing really working, when like the truth is you are the common denominator in like any experience in your life. And so mindset's always going to be 80%. um so yeah, that was a really like nice sort of success story with my client.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and I love how you said like 80% is mindset and then 20% is more of like the strategy or the hard work or the work you
Yeah,
put, right? Yeah, it's so
yeah.
important. Like it's something I've started learning to be honest, unlearning, right? Because all my life, even in Singapore and being in India, it was more of like 100% hard work and no mindset work at all, right? So it was all
Yeah,
me hustling over and over and then not understanding why things weren't working out in my favor or why I wasn't being rewarded for all this hard work.
yep.
Um, but yeah, no, this was just an amazing conversation just to hear you speak about like manifestation and embodiment and identity work and then the quantum identity and also the laws of the
Yeah,
universe. I feel like I learned so much from you about like
yeah,
creating safety in your body, about regulating your system and how important that is to actually manifest your desires and how
yeah,
time is also not only a concept and you can start embodying today. Like you can literally be
exactly.
your future self identity today.
Yeah, that's the key, because otherwise, like, you sort of like you forget that you actually hold that inner power, and like the societies that we lived in, and like the structures that we live in, obviously it's like by design, right? They want you to sort of need that external validation, and feel the need that you need to work hard to like build that kind of income. But then when you look around and you see the most wealthy people in the world, they didn't take like an entire lifetime to get there. Like a lot of them just knew that like this is their identity, and they are just going to start like assuming that identity from like day one, day dot, and that's how like things sort of like start falling into place for you. And it's not the easiest thing to do as well, because I think it can be a very isolating experience, especially when you're going through a spiritual awakening, which is like a lot of the clients that I work with, because it's not something that you can really talk to about with like your family, with your colleagues, your friends. And yeah, I think it's like it's just beautiful how like manifestation can kind of be that support and in like transitional periods of your life when you're going through things that really don't make sense to you.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom with us, and thank you for being here
Of
today.
course. Thank you, Pratna.
And how do people reach you if they want to learn more about you and get into your containers?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram account called Manifest with Simran. And yeah, can definitely just DM me. I also offer like a free mindset shifts guide, which is like a good way to start and get a bit of a sense of like what actually I do. It's something that really helped me put the pieces of the puzzle together as well. One of the mindset shifts is whenever you feel a negative emotion, that's just your higher self disagreeing with you. So that's just one of the 5 mindset shifts. And like if the listeners want to find out more, they can like download that. And yeah, there's like practices as well, so it's not just theory, there's like actually
Yeah.
practical ways to apply that daily.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm gonna go download it right now. Um,
Okay,
and
sure.
I'll put the details in the description too, like on
Yeah.
YouTube and on Spotify. So
Okay.
it'll be easier for people to find you. But yeah,
Yeah,
thank you so much for being here.
thank
Thank
you
you
so
to
much for your
everyone.
time. Yeah, it was really nice like chatting with you about all of this.
Same here. Take
Yeah, all
care.
right,
Have an amazing day.
bye.
Bye. That's the end of this episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. It gave me so much food for thought and it made me learn something new for sure. So I really hope you enjoyed it and had a great time. You're listening to Rebel with a Purpose, and I'm Pratna signing off.